Greetings from the Catholic parish of Bundaberg, trusting you are safe and in good spirits. Today we continue the getting to know the people of our parish just that little bit better, and today we have the privilege of interviewing Ted Carey. Now Ted Carey we find at the 8 o'clock Mass, when we could get there, handing out the bulletins.
That's right.
That's right, isn't it, Ted?
Yep.
Well, it's
Yep.
good to have you here.
Nice to be here.
So Ted, you've got a rather interesting gospel from Matthew to proclaim for us.
Yes, Father.
So would you like to proclaim now?
Yes, I will do that. It's Matthew 12:46 to 50. Jesus was speaking to the crowd when his mother and his brothers appeared. They were standing outside and were anxious to have words with him. But to the man who told Jesus replied, "Who is my mother? Who are your brothers?" And stretching out his hands towards the disciples, he said, "Here are my mothers and brother. Anyone who does the will of my Father in heaven, he is my brother and my sister and my mother." Gospel of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Thanks be to God.
So Ted, that's an interesting choice. Can you explain why you've chosen that one?
Yes, well, I chose that because I related to my relation with the church here, the Holy Rosary. And I class the people and congregation of the church and all those with it to be my family, which they have proved in the past to be just that, my family.
So we'll hear a bit more about that story later on, won't we, Ted?
Yep.
Thank you. So Ted, you've been around the traps a little while, and you go back to some interesting times, some difficult times, and you've had quite a few challenges in your life. Can you go right back to the beginning of where you were born?
Yes, well, I was born in a little suburb of Brisbane, on the south side of Brisbane, on the 6th of March in 1936. At that time it was just scrub country where we lived, and we was classed as bushes at the time. I was born in it was actually a house in Sharpton Avenue at Mowbray Park and Kangaroo Point. They used to call it St Clair's Women's Hospital, and they had about 6 patients there. And I was born on the kitchen table, no oak table. But I lived in Salisbury, and I went to school at the Maruka Convent, and there I stayed until I passed my scholarship, and then I went to St James's Christian Brothers in the Valley in Brisbane, and that's where I finished up with my schooling there.
So any brothers and sisters?
Yes, but we don't keep in contact.
No contact anymore?
No.
Okay. But your faith story started with Mum and Dad, did it?
Yes, my mother, she was a non-Catholic, and my father was a Catholic but non-practicing. But the mother, she made sure we were brought up in the Catholic Church, baptised, communion and confirmation was Mum's job, and she sort of stuck with them. We was always proud of that, even though she was a non-Catholic.
Well, she's very committed to looking after you guys by the sounds of that.
Was.
Okay, so you were attending school. Were you any good at school?
Ha! No.
No good at school?
No.
Don't blame you sometimes, I tell you. I shouldn't say that, should I? But yeah, school's what you got to do between sport, that's the way I read it. But for you, what did you want to do when you were at school?
Well, when I finished school, I really wanted to do 4 things. I always wanted to be a soldier, I wanted to be a cowboy, I wanted to be a carpenter, and I wanted to be a truck driver. And in my lifetime I achieved all those things, and I started out as a cowboy working on cattle stations out from Mitchell in in the Mitchell district, and it was a good, clean, healthy life, and it sort of gave me a basis to be independent of myself when I was working there, because if you didn't, you went under.
So from there, where to?
From there, I come back to the Gold Coast, and at that time, the parents were living on a place called Goat Island, which is now well known in Severn as Chevron Island. And all these islands through the Nerang River were built up by sand pumping the sand from the river and building the island up to what they call flood levels. And each island was had a bridge built across to it, and that's where I took back up onto the went into carpentering, and that's where I became a carpenter, learning how to box up on bridges.
You had a few little stories there about some of those bridges and things.
Yeah, I was standing on the bridge doing something there one day, and the chap walked up and he said, "I'm looking for block so-and-so." The only way I could tell him, I said, "Well, see where this pelican swimming, that's where your block is, my friend."
So it had gone under.
I thought I was going to have to pull him out of the river.
So what was the cause of all of that? What was the problem?
Well, when we put the bridge down, they put in what they call test holes in the riverbed to find out where you got a solid foundation. Anyhow, the test stopped about 12 feet above what they call peat, which was an very early form of coal. And after we'd done some test drilling around the whole of the Gold Coast, we found out that the Tambourine Mountains at that time used to be the coastline, and that all the land in between had slowly filled in, and all the vegetation had become this peat. And once you hit it and water hit it, it just became like a bottle of ink. There's no foundation whatsoever.
So when you fly over in an aeroplane and you look down on the Gold Coast, you can see all these situations.
All these islands, you can see them stuck out everywhere, and some are farms, some were mud flats, some were just nothing. But by cutting the rivers and making canals through them, you ended up with islands, and which cost a lot of money.
So interesting times, isn't it? Interesting history there. So from there, where did you go?
I went truck driving then for a while, and I was working in the state, and then it was while I was doing this that I got married and had 2 boys. But it didn't last because I was never home, and that didn't suit the other partner. So we split up, and yeah, well, that's part of the life that's gone now. So
Tough times.
Yep.
Tough times. So the truck driving brought you to where?
Truck driving, I went to Townsville. To some friends I knew up there, and I managed a furniture removal transport for a while until he sold out, and from there I moved to the gem fields, because no, I didn't. I'm sorry. I went through the coal mining towns and went back to the tools, where I was building houses in these mining towns. Some towns were from scratch, nothing there but scrub, and we built the first house in Middlemount
Okay.
and Carey.
Yep.
And after that, I went as a sort of a troubleshooter for the company, and we was I was finishing off houses and handing them over or fixing up things that should have been fixed up, and passing them on to the mining companies. And as while I was doing this, I heard a whisper that there was going to be another coal mining town opened out on the gem fields. And I decided to shift out there, but as it turned out, the mine went up to Springshore, and the gem fields was just left bare as a tourist spot. Dug a few sapphires, but you can't eat sapphires, and they're only worth what somebody's willing to pay for them.
So this is around Anarchy, Ruby Vale.
Anarchy, Ruby Vale.
Yeah, okay.
During all this time, though, I walked away from the church. I just didn't seem to have time for it. But when I come to the gem fields, I run into a priest called Dan Moore.
Father Dan Moore.
Father Danny Moore. And he used to come out to Anarchy once a month. And he'd hold mass there in the Anarchy hall. And he sort of gave me a bit of a spark to go back to the church, and I started to go back into Emerald every now and then to the church in there, and once a month, always on that end month, you'd go out to Anarchy for it, because there was a good little smash out there in church and good people.
Like you had the Jim and Ann Hattie out there, there's some really beautiful people there.
I don't know whether Father Dan come out to say mass, or he come out for the roast beef that he used to get from Hattie's.
Yes. They certainly looked after the priests, they looked after everybody. It was a
Sure
great time.
Yes.
And of course Dan didn't mind a bit of a sing-along and a bit of whiskey, and if there was a light on, Dan was there.
The only trouble with it, he could never pick out what people could do.
Okay.
I used to teach a bit of line dancing at the time, and he used to tell everybody I used to play the trombone. He got everything all fouled up.
Yeah.
But
he was very popular.
He was a great man.
Didn't matter what religion or no religion or colour thumpian, it didn't matter. Yeah, good man. So, you come back to the church when you're out in the gem fields and emeralds?
Yeah.
How did you get to Bundaberg?
Well, I used to come down fishing and travel then back out to Emerald, and I thought to myself, well, this is silly. Why don't I just go down and live at Bundaberg? And I got fishing all the time. When I come here, I was living in a little cottage out on a cane farm on Cedars Road. And it was while I was living there that I started to get my illness. And it was too far. By the time an ambulance got out there, it was over an hour before you got anywhere near a hospital. So I decided to come to town. And when I come to town, I first started going to Holy Rosary, because it was just around, not Holy Rosary, to St Mary's, it was just around the corner. And then I found that there was a mass at 8 o'clock at the Holy Rosary. And I thought, well, that'll do me, so I started coming to the Holy Rosary. And while I was there, I was asked if I would help Margaret Healy out at the door handing out the bulletin. And that's where I stayed for a few years. And just hope one day maybe we can get back to doing that. It doesn't look like it at the present time.
Yes, well, hopefully you're absolutely right, and we'll see Ted once again at the front there at Holy Rosary handing out the bulletins and saying hello to everybody. Now, there's one particular person you had to say hello to, and that was that Carey Devine. You know Carey Devine?
Oh, yes, I know him. He's a good little chap in ways, and I won't tell you what I call him, but it's a nice name. And, otherwise, he's done wonders for me. I was in hospital in Brisbane, and I had no idea where I was when his voice came out of the blue on the telephone, and we've sort of been mates and part of his family ever since.
He's been really good, hasn't he? We've got to be careful because he's actually in the room with us at the moment. We don't want him to get too big ahead, but he's done some fantastic work around the parish, hasn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. Now, you're handing out the bulletins has meant a lot of people have got a welcome. And this is part of your story from the gospel, isn't it?
Yes. The people, at first, people used to just walk past and come in, and then slowly but surely people started to talk and get to know people and different things, and people would talk to you and tell you some of the little problems, and I met many good people, and that's why I class the Holy Rosary congregation as my family now. It's, they lifted me right up, and I really come back to the religion in that time.
And basically, from the understanding from Dan Moore and Emerald, and from people like Carey Devine and Margaret Healy, you just really find that the church is your family.
The church is my family now.
That's just beautiful.
In 2 ways. It's great.
So when we get back, it'll be always a good message for anyone who wants to become a member of this family to either have a yarn with you at the door at Holy Rosary.
You can do that any time once we get back there.
Or Carey Devine.
Yes.
You've got to have a lot of time, you've got to have a yarn with Carey Devine, though, don't you?
Yeah, but you talk to Carey, you've got to be prepared to have a good conversation, not just good day, hello and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. Same with Margaret Healy, isn't it? You've got to have a bit of time. I'll be in trouble for that one.
I call her Madam Butterfly because she flits here and flits there and she talks here. When Margaret walks in the back door of the church of a Sunday, it takes her about 3/4 of an hour to get to the front door by the time she's finished talking to everybody.
It's just beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really makes it what you're saying, we become a family,
Yeah.
celebrate Mass together. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that, Ted. Is there anything else that you want to mention on your journey? Because at the moment your health isn't all that good, is it?
No, it's not. But I try to keep it to myself, but you just can't help when you get sick, and you just can't help it. And I appreciate everything that everybody does for me, especially in the church. Bill
Noble?
Yeah, Sister
He's another
Mary,
character, isn't he?
Yeah, Sister Mary.
Sister Mary Della?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're always there in the hospital when you need them and willing to talk, and the new priest with the anointings and that.
Yep.
It's great.
Mind you, the nurses in the hospital are pretty good too, aren't they?
Yes, well, some of our congregation are nurses in the hospital, and they give you just that little bit extra when you.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, thank you very much, Ted. So if you want to know a little bit more about Ted, wait till his churches are open again at 8 o'clock at Holy Rosary. Thank you, Ted. These are difficult times, these COVID times, aren't they?
They surely are. We just hope one day that they'll come good again.
Yeah.
But what people's got to realise is they've got to do their little bit to bring that about.
Yeah.
And some of these people just have no sense of responsibility of the way that they act. But anyhow, that's not for me to say.
Okay. Well, you have said it now. So I hope someone's listening out there. You've got a beautiful little prayer.
Yes, I'll read this little prayer out to you and hope it helps some people. Compassionate and loving Father, in the face of confusion and concern, impart to us the calm of your presence. If you allow us to find hope and healing, be those who serve the sick and give you a caring hand. Be with those who lead and give you their spirit of wisdom. Be with those who have fallen ill and give them your comforting heart. Wrap your arms around our world and hold us in your love. Allow us at the time of trial to soon serve as instruments of love to all we meet. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ted, and thank you for being with us today. Join us again next week for another episode of Church Chat. Keep in touch, stay well, and be gentle with each other. Amen.
Amen.